Thanks everyone for joining the program today. The topic is around emergence of digital professional services. I think for people who are familiar with traditional professional services, in the past decades, these are conducted through the traditional means, through people, through physical meetings, through emails, etc. But with the onset of digital transformation, clients of yours often are switching over to more digital setup, including use of technology, sometimes as much as going through AI or artificial intelligence. So it looks like that the professional services firms need to transform ourselves and disrupt ourselves so that we stay in the front of the game. So I think today we have very fortunate to have very distinguished speakers and panelists to join us. Let me introduce them briefly, and then we'll follow through with a series of questions and topics. Firstly, Henry Tang. Henry is the CEO and Chief Innovation Officer of Nexia TS Group, an accounting and advisory group headquartered in Singapore. His previous roles include Asia Pacific Chairman and Board Member of Nexia International. He's also ExCo member of Singapore FinTech Association. Nexia TS, for those of you who may not know much about, is a full range service firm ranging from audit, tax, risk management, internal audit, valuation, transaction services, M&A advisory. And Nexia TS recently joined the AMTD Digital Group as a member firm. So welcome, Henry. Satyam Agarwal. He is the President of ASEAN and Global Head of Financial Services at Global Linker. Global Linker is an AI-powered platform, building a global community of digitized SMEs with a growing community over 300,000 SMEs from over 150 countries. Satyam's role at Global Linker is to partner with leading banks and corporations to transform the way SMEs are served. He is also responsible for enabling financial services to be offered to SMEs on the platform in a contextual and personalized way. In his prior role as the Managing Director and Head of Retail Business Banking for Asia Pacific HSBC, Satyam was responsible for delivering the growth ambitions of HSBC in this segment. Satyam set up 4 new markets, including China, India, Malaysia, and Indonesia, hiring over 400 people. Prior to HSBC, Satyam was the Global Head of Products for Retail Assets and Business Banking at Standard Chartered. Last but not least, Joe Wan, CEO for Triker, and most of us from Hong Kong will know Triker. Joe leads a 700 plus professional team who serve over 10,000 clients, including 1,500 listed companies on the Stock Exchange of Hong Kong, offering integrated business advisory services such as corporate administration, trust, fiduciary, accounting, and financial reporting. He also drives a digital transformation strategy and oversees the company's ongoing expansion efforts into emerging markets such as the Greater Bay Area. So let me introduce myself as well. My name is Raymond Yeo. I'm the moderator for today's workshop. I'm a director with AMTD International, a New York Stock Exchange listed company. AMTD Group is actually a leading financial services conglomerate with businesses in investment banking, asset management, digital investments, and non-financial services areas like investing in real estate assets, including hotels, talents development, as well as strategic investments in new economy companies. So without further ado, let me jump right into the questions that are prepared for the panelists. If I can address the first question to Joe. Joe, how can you navigate the impact of automation and digital transformations on skills and people development, given that you have such a big staff force in your company?
Thank you, Raymond. And hello, everyone. Raymond, you asked a very good question. First of all, I think the impact that technology and automation has on us is largely positive. Technology to us is an enabler that enhances my people's skills and ability, thereby allowing them to concentrate on higher value advisory work, rather than some repetitive and mundane tasks. And then now at Tricor, we have over 200 robots transforming the way we work and the way we serve our clients. The repetitive and mundane tasks such as journal entries and reconciliations can now be done technically 24/7 every day of the week. So digitalization, to me, it will only help us to improve our productivity, especially under this COVID environment. And therefore, recently we've invested into a startup company called Taxonomy, which focuses on assisting board of directors to convene their meetings in a digitized environment, while maintaining a very high degree of governance and of course confidentiality. Now, with the very rapid advancement in technologies, companies can of course reap the benefits of intelligent systems. They can use digital tools to accelerate the business performance and optimize their intercompany communication to a very highly effective means and manner. For example, today, we're meeting over Zoom rather than physical meeting. Having said that, I do believe that in the digital age, a personal touch matters more than ever, not less. Therefore, even when I embrace technology in the way we work and the way we serve our clients, we have not forgotten to build and nurture relationships within the company and with our clients. Lastly, training, of course, is the heart of what Tricor does as well. With Tricor Academy, we not only train our clients, but also our staff to stay updated on technology trends that are transforming or disrupting our industry. So it's a very good question, Raymond.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Very crispy, very concise articulation of how your company embraces digital era. And I hope everything will go well and that you have less staff force going forward, but which a much larger revenue base and more clients served.
Thank you, Raymond. Yeah.
Okay, second question for Henry, if I can. Henry, which service line in your business are leading in digitization and your strategy in dealing with this to stay ahead of the game?
Thank you, Raymond, and honored to be on the panel with my distinguished fellow panel members. I think for me, I look at it, digitalization has maybe two perspectives. One is the digitalizing of the process of my practice, so that will cover the whole span of all the practice line as much as like what Joe was talking about in terms of how do we ensure that we can do the business digitally. And Raymond mentioned, with this COVID situation, how we can react to the client. And to me, maybe to make it easier for the audience to understand would be like we are trying to have a SAP equivalent or a Salesforce equivalent for a professional firm. So in our situation, we have a bespoke practice management system that covers the whole process. And I think Raymond would know, how tough it is because he was on PwC previously, about even accepting a client has a long process. So unless you are able to do that digitally and using machine to help us, you'll take a lot of time and sometimes you may miss that as well. So that portion from the beginning of acceptance all the way to the billing and collection, that is one part of digitalization, and that's of course awesome. On the second part of digitalization is how do we make use of tools that we can do our work digitally, and that will include things ranging from, like, for example, in our audit process, which is one big service line for us, we use the tool called Caseware, where there will be digital work papers. There will also be embedded data analytics, as well as other CATs program that we can actually do the work digitally. And of course, that helps very much in the process to make sure that we are able to look at it in a very efficient manner.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Please go ahead if you have.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Sorry.
So yeah, and I think for me, looking at the tool, there's a typical question about, would one day for a professional firm like us, where we exercise a lot of judgment, be replaced very much as we continue with the digital process. So to us, we use a strategy that we want to embrace technology so that it enable our work. So we look at it as a friend to help us, but at the same time, it doesn't replace the judgment that we need to do in doing our professional work. So I look at very much the digital process and the AI-enabled process to help out with a diagnostic portion, and then we use our judgment, human, to do those professional portion. And this is also one of the parts that we try to work with the industry. For example, we work with fintech in Singapore. We make use of the Singapore government grants to enable us to upskill and digitalize. And of course, as Raymond mentioned, we also want to be part of the AMTD family because digital is so important. And in the future, there's nothing as digital and non-digital, right? Everything is digital. So thank you so much, Raymond.
Yeah, sounds great. Thank you, Henry. It sounds from both Joe and Henry's message that, I think your staff would actually be happier to do the work which, they're not mundane anymore. They require much more brain power and much more innovations involved because the mundane part is done by automation of machines, which I think is exactly what the profession is setting into. So my next question will be to Satyam. Obviously, Satyam, you're from the other side of the table. You are from the buy side, in other words, the client side. And how do you see the SMEs, for example, expectations from professional firms like Triker and like Nexia in the next 2 to 5 years? What are the significant expectation differences that you think compared to what is being delivered now?
Thanks, Raymond, for the question. And again, it's a pleasure and honor to be on this panel with esteemed, fellow panelists. So I've just moved from over 2 decades of, banking to a technology platform, for SMEs, which is called Global Linker. So when I was at a bank, till 30th of June, my perspective was very different. Obviously, as a large organization like HSBC, we were trying to digitize the way we were serving SMEs, which I would say 10 years back, it was all in-house built. But what started happening in the last 4 to 5 years, the build conversation started moving a lot towards by partnering with, other firms who are providing digital services and even microservices and bringing that, to provide a seamless customer experience. So bank already started moving in that direction. When it specifically comes to the SME segment, as a banker, the way I was looking at it was always, banking is some code to what SMEs would need, and everything else becomes beyond banking. That's a very popular technology you would hear a lot of bankers that use. Now, as I move to the other side, I've realized that actually a lot of other services are code to SME, and banking is actually something, that facilitates a lot of those transactions. So to me, the switch I've made mentally in my mind is from beyond banking, I've started calling it before banking. These are the things that the SMEs would need. Now, specifically coming to trends, I would say 3 important trends that I see, with digitization, and number 2, with COVID, that's kind of accelerated the whole trend. So if I look at SME as a segment, they are a massive force, right, in any economy. They contribute significantly in terms of GDP, in terms of employment. More than 95% of businesses in any economy are SMEs. However, they were also a very informal, colloquial community. And they, for the longest time, while they all understood what's coming around in terms of digitization, the pace at which they were embracing digitization was very slow. Now, one thing that COVID has, I think, the silver lining with COVID, while it's a human tragedy, is that whole digitization pace and the acceptance on the part of SMEs have just kind of gone up, significantly. And SMEs now want to be digitally empowered. They want to be digitally smarter. So things like, if I look at professional services, let's say in accounting, if I take India as a market, most of SMEs had like a popular, would have accounting software which didn't even have cloud capability. And to access that, they would have to go to office. Now, suddenly when you're locked in home, you start realizing, hey, by the way, I can't go to office. Now there's a significant need for me to move into a cloud-based accounting service, So you're starting to see big shifts, or in that. Same way for banking services, a lot of SMEs didn't like using, they would still write checks and all that. Now suddenly you realize during COVID, your checkbook is still in your office drawer. You can't write a check anymore. And you need to now, start accessing internet banking. So that is something that's starting to happen significantly. And you take it in any area, be it accounting services, HR, banking. There's a massive shift where SMEs want to be digitally empowered and digitally smarter. That's one big trend. The second one I would say is because of digitization, a lot of these services now can be provided to SMEs it can be sachet sizes, and SME as a segment can be catered to. Earlier a lot of these services were almost reaching out to SMEs and serving them meaningfully and in a cost efficient way was very challenging, right, in the traditional model. But with digitization, that's just become possible, right? And you have the emergence of freelance services and microservices, on the professional side, right, from e-store building, web services and all that, where SMEs could kind of consume these services, by the hour, or something that's a lot more affordable to them. And that digitization has made it absolutely possible. So that's the other big trend. I start seeing that, as a service provider to SMEs, and SME themselves, the service provider, it's just kind of been enabled by the whole digital trend. And the third thing I would see is a lot of other service providers now being able to embed their products into all of these journeys, right? So as a platform, if I take Global Linker as an example, while we started as a networking solution and we're connecting SMEs, buyers and suppliers for business opportunities, what we've started now embracing and we've started building deep integrations is like a HRMS. So we have today on our platform an HRMS service where SMEs can bring their employees, and all the HR services around payroll, everything could be done, on the platform. Now, 10 years back, that was completely inconceivable, given the cost it would take to serve, let's say, 20 employees, right? SME with 20 or 50 employees. That's now become very possible and almost at a very minimum cost, right? Where SMEs can consume these services. So that's just starting to become possible. Same thing on financial services. If I have to, in the past, lend to someone, I would have to collect at least 100 pages of document. Now, because SMEs are interacting, a lot of accounting information and other information is sitting on digital platforms, lenders could just go and ingest those information in a very efficient way and in a matter of seconds, which would help them make decisions. So that's the third trend that's kind of starting to happen. So those are my views, where I see this as a SME segment as the biggest beneficiary of the whole trend. And with COVID, that's kind of just, leapfrogged, I would say, at least by a few years.
Great. I think it's very, very informative messages there, Satyam. And one of the things I take away is that the SMEs would have to move to a more cloud-native environment. And is that easy to transform that? Are they willing to sacrifice potential breaches of their information once they move on to cloud? So
my take is they're getting there, and I like all the comments that Joe made. It requires a bit of convincing. It requires a bit of human touch, a phygital model. So and it's for any cloud services, putting the data on the cloud. Yes, but they also at the same time recognize that they have very little choice, as some of the government infrastructure and the surrounding infrastructure is all becoming, digital. So a lot of SMEs don't have a choice but to adopt to that, But my personal take is it requires a bit of convincing and a bit of human touch to say that, your data is possibly even more protected than being on your personal hardware, right?
Yes,
then,
so.
When it's on cloud, yeah.
Exactly. I mean, it's like the trend of open banking in APIs, and that enables the platform banks, the open banks, the modular banks all happening. So now on to Joe around this cloud-based processing capability. Do you see that as happening? For example, in your clientele, can you tell us or share with us sort of rough percentage of your clients are already on cloud connected? Joe, can you unmute yourself?
Yes,
okay.
There we go. All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Raymond, again. I'll use the example that I just mentioned about that our latest investment called Praxonomy. And it's not difficult for clients to get a secure environment, but it will be a very expensive secure environment. What Praxonomy has given our clients is a cloud-based solution, meaning stripping off a lot of their costs that they would have to incur otherwise, but at the same time provide a very secure environment. So to a question, I think more and more of our clients, especially the listed bigger ones, they're moving towards a cloud environment for cost considerations all the way to security concerns as well.
Great. So that means the trend of software as a service is going to move on quickly, right? That's exactly where the direction goes. Is buying those software, you lease them from the provider like yourself, like Lexia. So Henry, any views from your side?
Yeah, I think I agree with what Joe and also Satyam say. I think a lot of the SMEs were forced to go into that situation. I mean, just one anecdotal kind of example, because we are in the business of also doing audit and certification, and in the past they always say that we need 11 copies of audited accounts, so you have to start printing them, buying them, all this, and for the longest time we told them, you don't have to, you just need a soft copy and that's it. But with the COVID, then they say, okay, that's fine, don't send me any hard copies because we have no one in the office to receive it. And I think it's the same thing for the SES program way of doing things, and for us also, I think we find it much more convenient, because the moment they just give us an access code, that the password that's only enable us to do the reading of it, we can do a lot of our work and certification work just on the cloud. So I think that the client will start to feel that, okay, it's efficiency. At the same time, it requires much less additional work by them, because in the past they have to do schedules, they have to do this and that just to rearrange. But now we get access directly. Exactly,
and I'm sure your cybersecurity services would also go through the roof once everybody had to be connected, 24/7. But I really appreciate the inputs of the speakers and the panelists, all are very, very helpful. For me, my takeaway is that, these historical days of having all of those papers floating around as a means of authenticating a transaction is probably gone. The digital age, I think professional services can now provide that assurance, facilitate that process, as well helping your clients succeed in the digital environment. So thanks again, and I hope to see you all soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.